parler de corruption. Vous allez me dire, on est comme...
Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Je suis votre maître de cérémonie. Bienvenue à Mégaphone.
Faites partie vos idées, vos opinions, vos rêves. Let's hear your voices. Vive la parole libre. Alors j'ai décidé de vous parler de corruption. Vous allez me dire, on est un peu tanné d'en entendre parler, c'est vrai, moi aussi.
De discuter, de débattre et de décider ensemble de ce monde-là.
On a occupé la rue, on a manifesté à travers différentes avenues.
I'm really happy that there was something like the megaphone here because it's a way of spreading this kind of ideas. You know, we have to start talking about these things. They're important.
Montréal, c'est ma passion, mon amour. Je souhaite m'inscrire au grand livre d'histoire de la ville de Montréal.
Je pense qu'on peut entendre encore plus fort pour faire vibrer les murs de Montréal.
Thanks for the day we put it down. We call it secret shot video. We post things. I'm going to
J'aimerais que...
So basically you have three different parts of the installation. You have the speaker corner over there, and behind you see the big containers. We use the Google voice recognition API to, when a person was speaking, you could see in real time the voices, their words behind them. It wasn't perfect. Sometimes it wasn't relevant at all, and because of the Quebec accent in French, it was sometimes weird, but at the same time it was quite interesting. And on the big building behind, and the speakerphone was directed toward the building, and you had different kinds of interaction. You had recognition of the tone, the pitch, and if the person talks fast or not, so the color would change. So you had the color and also the ondulation, the waves. Thanks. So you had the waves that were influenced by the voice of the people, and then you also had a different, also a voice recognition system. We worked with a research institute in Montreal for this part because it was not as fast as the Google API. It was a bit slower, but the content was a bit more relevant, and they were occurring in some kind of cloud of words. So you had the speech of the person that was slowly building on the wall, and you have the instantaneity behind, and on the big building you had the speech, the overall speech. When you person, and what we wanted to do with this, and what they proposed, and it was also one of the challenges because the Moment Factory and even the Quartier des Spectacles, they were expert in doing wow and very grandiose installation, but us, the narrative and the storytelling was quite important and is still important for us. So it was quite of a challenge to not just have this installation where people just try to do some weird sounds in the microphone. So we wanted to have a content and something powerful, and that's why we arrived with this idea of what the Megaphone does. It's take the pulse of Montreal in real time for 1 month, and that's how we developed all the narrative through the month of this installation. It's by having in the mid, like when nobody was using the interaction, because we had to think about this too. Like there won't be at any given time someone speaking on the microphone. So we had this visual interpretation of everything that had been said before. So it was a data visualization of all the words that have been said during the past few days. And so we could really take the pulse of Montreal during a certain period of time. And also the intention behind this work was to have, as I said, the pulse of Montreal and what is happening in Montreal. So we really had to develop like a festival, a programmation for 1 month. We wanted also the people, because it's quite huge, and we are not used. If we see a microphone, who will take a microphone and start talking into a microphone? So we had to think of a strategy to reach to people and to get them to talk. So we developed this whole programmation, but we also had a maître de conversation, a conversation master, like a moderator, with a hat, and you saw it in there, and just reaching for people. And we also developed this whole website where we asked people to come and propose we had on the schedule a certain periods where the people can book a period of time where they can have an open discussion with people. So that's how we had during the whole month discussions around who's the young and next speakers, and what else we had also. It happened during the mayoral election of Montreal. So we invited all the candidates to come and have a discussion with us, and we asked them how do you imagine Montreal in 20 years? So all the candidates used the microphone for about 2 hours and explained how they saw Montreal, and it was quite interesting. There were also a discussion about the future of postal service in big cities, about oleoducts in Montreal. So it was very interesting how people just came and appropriate the public space, and that was the objective of this installation. And I think we kind of really reached that objective. And also we had this on the paddles cubicles with an exhibit on Montreal where speakers marked the time. Do you have any questions about that the installation, this project? Okay, I will move on. I'll just show you one more video. And it was a video we made of mostly the final, like a resume. A summary of the past month, and you will see different kind of information that happened.
J'étais vraiment impressionné dès les premiers moments. En fait, les gens s'en sont emparés. Puis tout de suite, la technologie s'est mise au service de la rencontre, de la relation entre les gens. Et non pas l'inverse. Attention, on n'a pas été tout tourné vers l'exploit technologique.
Parmi les 50 métiers d'avenir, il y en a juste à peu près 5 qui sont traditionnellement féminins. Les autres, c'est des métiers d'hommes. Des métiers d'hommes qui sont mieux rémunérés, qui ont une reconnaissance sociale plus importante. Les femmes demeurent plus affectées par des problèmes de pauvreté. Et ça, c'est amené par la société. C'est ça qu'il faut changer maintenant.
Puis le côté intimiste aussi qui a tout de suite bien fonctionné. Les gens ont partagé leurs idées avec une sincérité qui était vraiment touchante, vraiment impressionnante.
Des milliards de solitude, des milliards de la mienne. Mais ici, ce qu'on a, c'est que les gens créent des expériences. Et ça, c'est nouveau, parce que c'est sur le plan esthétique que ça se passe, et ça se passe dans l'espace, ça se passe en 3D, à travers l'architecture.
Just people walking by on the street, what's happening? Hi, this is an English comedy show. Or just a woman breaking down about her failed marriage.
À quoi bon s'exciter? L'amour est aveugle.
Au-delà de ceux qui passent et qui tout d'un coup découvrent l'installation, ont le goût de jouer avec, ont le goût de s'en servir pour se faire entendre, parce que oui, enfin, on les entend fort dans la ville.
On peut manifester, ohé, ohé, pacifiquement on peut manifester.
Dans du pays, c'est notre tour de vous laisser.
Ben, il y a tous ceux qui, tout d'un coup, se disent que c'est l'occasion de enfin prendre la parole et de dire ce que j'ai sur le cœur.
Les premiers responsables de la chute de la participation électorale, c'est pas les jeunes qui sont sur Internet, c'est les politiciens qui nous emmènent.
Il y a eu beaucoup de moments mémorables parce que les gens s'investissent et ils investissent l'espace et on voit qu'il y a un désir incroyable de communiquer, mais il y a aussi quelque chose qui se produit ici, qui se produit peut-être pas dans les médias sociaux, c'est qu'on a la possibilité d'être écouté et de se sentir écouté.
Et de redéfinir, de revisiter ce terme de citoyen, citoyenneté active, participation citoyenne, engagement citoyen, pour lui donner une définition, une notion qui aille au-delà du vote, au-delà de la plainte.
Il y a un jeune homme en chaise roulante qui est venu un soir de micro libre. Je l'ai enregistré, puis c'était vraiment... C'est du grand art. En voyant ça, je me disais, mon Dieu, les gens ont ce besoin de communiquer, c'est incroyable, et il faut des outils où on communique différemment.
C'est moi, votre ancien maire, Gérald. Bonsoir. Il est pas de raconter des histoires de 7 ans. Communiste ou capitaliste, la base de tous les systèmes, c'est la corruption. La corruption, là, tu vois ça comme le ciment social qui nous pointe tous ensemble.
Alors, on est en 2023.
Hey, ça a changé à Montréal. Tout est transparent maintenant.
Toi, avoir d'opinion, c'est comme un condamné à l'anonymat.
3 touristes chinois, lorsque je leur ai expliqué qu'on donnait la parole libre aux citoyens, ont éclaté de rire. Pour eux, c'était impensable dans leur pays. Et ici, ils trouvaient ça incroyable, exagéré, mais en même temps fantastique.
Ben moi, je parle, OK? Parce que moi, je paye des taxes. T'as rien que ça, moi, payer des taxes. Je paye des astis de taxes. Puis je vote pour le parti qui va couper les astis de taxes. Quand on va être enlevé, puis il n'y aura plus de taxes. Ben là, il va fermer ma gueule. Et astis qu'on va être bien.
Dites ce que vous avez à dire pour que ça s'inscrive quelque part, pas seulement dans l'espace public, mais aussi dans notre grand livre. Et par la fréquence, on verra ce qui préoccupe les Montréalais, les citoyens qui ont pris la parole. Ça, c'est quelque chose qui était aussi frappant.
Les suites? Ah ben là, on espère que l'installation va aller se balader. Montréal a parlé pendant 2 mois. Quelle ville est prête à accueillir le mégaphone? L'invitation est lancée.
That was pretty awesome to say that.
Plan some events such as the mayoral candidate debate, and also like every week and discovering a new speaker. But afterwards, it was an open discussion, and we also asked people to book their own event. But the installation was from 7 p.m. because we had to wait till the dark till 10-11. So mostly what we planned and organized, it was about 1 hour and a half, but still afterward it was open mic. It was open to anyone who wanted to. So that's what you can see there. Sometimes it was just magic and very interesting, and people, homeless people that take the microphone, or tourists, or any kind of people. So it was very, very, very interesting.
First of all, I think it's a beautiful project. Congratulations. And then I had a question. You mentioned something about the data visualization with the content you gathered. Do you mean, was this the thing on the building behind, or was it something else?
No, it was on the building. So as soon as, let's say, the speech was over, and we waited, I can't remember, but about 1 minute, then the visualization on the main building was shifting into the data visualization.
Using the voice recognition system.
Yeah, we like every words that have been through and recognized through the voice recognition, then have been collected in a logiciel, a software that organized, and we kind of got rid of all the
keeping the nouns.
Yeah, exactly. All the nouns up, but taking like significant words. And at the end too, we asked, because during the whole process of creation of this project, we were like, what's the end? Like once the project is over, what's left? Because that's something that happened, you know. And we asked a journalist from the Journal de Devoir, and we gave him like the result of all the words, and he did an article about what because during this period there were this whole corruption problem in Montreal that have been not resolved but unveiled, and so that was, and this word popped up in the data visualization as some word that came up often during the 2 months, and they were like for over a month massive walks with students. So that was also part of this the data visualization. So this journalist wrote an article about. So that was for us the leg of this project.
It was a very vibrant time in Montreal.
Yes.
And so there were two mechanisms. One where you instantly see what the person was talking about live. And then also,
Google API.
Yeah, and then there was also the compilation of the most popular words that would show up as kind of, you know, the pulse of all the conversation.
So there was somehow a question there to extract a significant part of a speech. That was something regarding to an algorithm there.
Yeah, like sometimes the word that the system recognizes too, because it's just the voice recognition system is something that is and was, because this was in 2013 at the end of this year. So it was already like what the system we have today, only a year and a half later, is so much better and improved. That's a technology that will be like so more evaluated. But at the time it was just weird, and that's something interesting. And I haven't discussed this, but in the production point of view, yesterday I don't see anybody from the panel from yesterday, but. Oh yeah, sorry. But they were talking about like they do teaser really the teaser very quickly during the production. But us, what we do very quickly in the production is prototyping. We prototype, we try, because there's an interaction, so we can make. We never can be sure that what we're going to develop will fit the public and the audience. So we had to try and prototype this voice recognition and invite. Do some kind of focus group with people and ask them to take okay, if I give you a microphone, would you speak, try to speak, how the recognition system will work, does it work well, does it work with our accent, what needs to be improved, and this is at the early stage into the production to make sure that all the concept and what we will develop around the project will be relevant and still work.
And also because there's a kind of an R&D in technology, research and development at the same time as you were, creating the content. Like in documentary, well, you know that you take the camera and you shoot, and then after that you edit. It's kind of you know the process, but we define the process in interactive, and so the need to prototype is very, very strong. You have to see it. So, okay, does it work? Can we test the major components so that we say it worked, and can we learn from that to adapt our content and to adapt that? So there's a lot of that adaptation and reactivity. Not only to changing technologies, but also to in the process of one project to define and refine the process as we move on.
What happens in Canada? I mean, ever since in the last 5 years when we started this digital shift project, how did the documentary creators, reacted to it? What were they? Adapt. Yeah.
Well, it's for me. I mean, I deal with that because most of the creators that we work with in Francophonie Canadienne are traditionally filmmakers, and so they're the storytellers. And so, in a way, like it's my first go-to to say, okay, well, we were studying in interactive projects you're interested in, but I really have to find people that will accept also working in another type of structure. When you're in a film, you have the director that has the vision, and it's the creator, and then the rest, they're collaborators, but they're still trying to realize the vision of the director, and so there's a creative lead that's very hierarchical. In the interactive, it's very horizontal. And so when we say we create a team with, say, somebody from, a metteur en scène, and then somebody, so the developers and the designers are also often part of the creation team. And so we'll have input on, the direction of the project. And so it's how to create a team where it's more risk and it's harder. But it's interesting because in that sense that technology will influence, like the developer, the ideas that the developer will influence the content, and the traditional director being focused on story will bring to the table. And so it's all components of all the different things that people bring to the table in that sense, but it's very much more horizontal. So there's an adaptation for the directors.
It could be a fear of losing control of the filmmaking of the story.
It happened, and sometimes it's funny how, and I don't feel it's like this anymore, but at the beginning, when we started doing interactive works at the NFB, the documentaries thought that they were the one to do this. But we were doing work without even having a documentarist into the team. We kind of opened the door and say, you have a point of view, you want to tell a story. We don't because we don't have necessarily videos and film into our production. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. We still have a strong author point of view, but it's not just through this. So I would say that at the beginning they were like, it's like if we took out some opportunities from them, and they were this fear, let's say. But now it's we've been around for 5 years so far, so they understand the process, and it's just something different. It's just that when we start a project, and they were talking about this yesterday, it's a reportage, or it's a TV thing, or a film, but it's the same way for us. It's like, okay, we want to talk about this. What's the best way of telling that story? What's the best way? Is it an installation? Is it a documentary, a film? Is it a web-based documentary, or on iPhone? We developed a project lately called The Cancer of Time, and we called it in fable,
I think.
A fable about our an ability to do nothing, and we said that iPhones and mobile phones were probably the cancer, because it's now that we don't enjoy and we can't stand doing nothing. As soon as we have a blank time, grab our phones. We wanted to talk about this, and we thought that the best way of talking about this was by developing a mobile app. So that's how we think, and that's how we develop project.
I was wondering, did the installation travel to other cities or countries, and is the project still active?
The video ended by, we wish the Megaphone installation will travel around, and we really aimed for this and tried strongly. But the thing is that the Quartier des Spectacles, the setup they have, they're using to do the projection, like a projection like this with the neat resolution, and it's 2 huge projectors of 20,000 lumens. So it's huge. It's on the roof of a building on the opposite side. So we tried to have this installation travel, but it was not. It was even more expensive than starting from scratch, because just having the infrastructure and having this kind of setup in another city, because no other city has this kind of setup. So we would have to adapt, work on the design, develop different stuff. So it was even, I think, I'm very bad with the numbers, but it was about $200,000 to produce that installation, and to have it somewhere else, it was more expensive.
So it wouldn't require really the input from the city or some actor in the city?
unfortunately, we really tried, but it's too expensive to have this kind of installation. So now, I wouldn't say we've done some installation, but this one that was one of the biggest one. So now when we developed an installation, we really tried to think, okay, how can this installation travel or be adapted with a smaller budget? So that's now it's a learning.
What inspired this project? I missed the beginning.
What inspired is that we just got off this student strike, and it was really interesting how the collective and the students reinterpreted but appropriated the public space. So this is the first idea, but us at the NFB and the Quartier des Spectacles, it was a call for project. It was this big call of project, and the only thing we said is, how do we reconciliate in the individual and the collective in the public space? That was the line, and Moment Factory with Etienne Paquette suggested to have this big speaker corner and create a visualization of the project.
I was wondering if there were any precedents that you got inspired from. In Toronto, there's the Danda Square. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but at any given time, there is someone there who is speaking about something, and there could be 3 groups of people or activists or organizations that are representing their voice or bringing up, but they do not have like megaphones and another thing is, so if there are any precedents that gave you the idea of setting this speaker's corner.
The two influences were the speaker corner in London and the public assembly in the 20s in Montreal. That's the main influence of the inspiration.
People would take a soapbox and just stand on it and take, talk.
So we knew from the beginning that we needed to propose and produce a project that was addressed first for a young public, like in this case 13 till 17 years old. As Doinic said, as a producer, we can initiate project, and we also, sometimes it's just author that comes to us and propose a project. But in this case, we started a project saying, okay, we want to reach this public, and we want to talk about the violence. We want to talk about the strongest feelings we have and that we contain, and how this violence we feel, and those strong feelings we have, it's primal. Everybody feels that, but we all contain those emotions, these emotions. But when you're young, you scream, you express them. But older we get, like we don't allow ourselves to scream, and that's what we wanted to experiment. And we really said we want the people to question themselves and ask themselves, when's the last time I screamed, and why did I scream? So we just did this collaborative piece, and the challenge was what we wanted to do was to create an eternal screen, basically. It's as simple as that, and I'm just going to show you this video first. This is the URL.
C'est le texte numéro 1. J'ai 16 ans, puis je suis en 5e secondaire. Je viens de Masse-TH. Ça, c'est une communauté autochtone au lac Saint-Jean, au Québec. Je suis moi-même un autochtone. Le beau soleil et ma maison. J'ai jamais vraiment crié de toutes mes forces. Je trouve que ça va être drôle à faire. Et puis ça, c'est ma chambre. Qu'est-ce que je voudrais exprimer par mon cri? Ça serait toutes les injustices que subis aux Autochtones. Toute la frustration que j'ai à l'intérieur de moi. Les Autochtones, je trouve qu'on se sent beaucoup emprisonnés. En fait, j'ai choisi cet endroit-là parce que je trouve que c'est un endroit paisible que je viens pour quand je fais le pas.
Without the collaboration and the contribution of the people, it doesn't exist at all. It's an empty cup. There's nothing. So we developed this, and this is where we're going to jump in. But when the people scream, you see that there are different graphic and visual over them, and that's in the contribution tool. You will see we asked two photographers. And one graphic designer, the one who screamed at the end with the red hair. So we asked the three of them to create visual and pictures and based on a list of 12 emotions. So you will see that when you in the contribution tool, we asked the people, when's the last time you screamed? I think that was the first question. Or think about something that want to make you scream. And then scream, and then choose a filter. That it's for the user, it's invisible. They don't know. We just put all these images, but all the creation of the filters, we call them, they are based on an emotion. So this project we had, it was, as Dominic said, it's not one document. It's a developer, a graphic designer, it's a filmmaker, it's two photographers. That's the core of the team, and they all have the director title or hat. It's been not hard, but it's it's not hard, but it's not easy to have them all work together, and even in two countries, because the filmmaker was in one of the photographer and one filmmaker was based in Argentina, and the rest of the team was in Canada. So I'm just gonna show you the rest. Interactivity and the way we use the technology and the way we summarize the experiences. We don't want any interaction to be not meaningful. So in this case, what we like when we really like when we were thinking of the experience, what we want is the people to really, they have to scream. And it's all about this. For me, the little portraits, the little short films, it's not the main content. The main content is having the person to actually scream, and if we have a person screaming, we reached our goal, because it's like the mirror effect. It's just not talking about the strongest feelings we have and talking about violence. Is you asking yourself, when's the last time I screamed, and scream, and when you do it, you feel ridiculous screaming in front of a computer, obviously, but I mean, just screaming, and it's just this old reflection we wanted the people to have, and I think that we kind of reached this goal within this project. But at the same time, if you're not into screaming, you still experiment this project, and you don't have to do it. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to show you with this project. Is there anything you should say about this project?
Maybe the content component in terms of some of the portraits.
Oh yeah, but the video content is overall 10 kids, 5 from Quebec, 5 from Argentina, and we asked them. We basically we gave them an iPod and asked them to film themselves answering some of the questions we're asking in the documentary, and we did the editing. And we also asked them which filter would you use and put the filters into their short video. And we did I think they're about 30 seconds short film, but we also edited the 2 minutes version that you can have on the web experience.
So it's still a contribution, it's a little bit more curated?
Yeah, it's curated, because it's curated. And about the prototyping I said earlier, that's something also we did first. This overall experience, the first thing we did was developing the tool section in this project. We wanted the kids, and we contacted the school and asked them if we could use it at their class, art class, I think. And we asked them, we wanted the emotions to be relevant, so we talked with the emotion with them. We bought hunting tent, a hunting tent, and we in their school we used this a place like this and put the hunting tent on the stage and everywhere, and they get in with a computer and only the collaborative tool, and we just drop them there, said nothing, and filming them, see how they act and react and what works and what doesn't work. So that was very, very important in the process, because as I said, we'll develop this whole project, but without the contribution, the project doesn't exist, and if it's not appealing, if it's not, if they don't understand, and it's not, also it's, like I said, it needs to be relevant, because the whole subject of this project is there. So the prototyping was a very important phase, and we really learned, and it influenced to the development of the project and the concept and the storytelling of the project. No questions? I'm going to jump to another project.
Maybe just when I was wondering how you got the children to participate. How did you market or push the project to get them involved?
At the National Department, we have an educational department, and they are in contact with teachers. So the whole collection and all the films are available through, it's called Campus. It's a website dedicated to the teachers. But still they are in touch with them, and so that's how we are in touch with the teacher and the kids. And also in Quantum, they are very involved as part of the educational ministry. They're very involved with the kids. And they had some budget left on their side, and they developed a small box that goes around in the city where you can screen. But unfortunately, we didn't have money anymore, but that was part of the original project. We wanted to have this, and also it's Marian screen box where you can just screen, and then your contribution is into the project right away.
You had the results interpreted by a psychologist?
Excuse me?
You had the results interpreted by a psychologist?
No. Could be interesting.
Why not?
Speaking of budget, I don't know if this is a rude question, but what was the general budget of this?
This project?
This project, more or less.
I would think the number is 175,000.
In US dollars?
Canadian.
Canadian.
Canadian dollars. So it's $75,000 from the co-producer.
Okay. And how many screens did you get? More or less.
At this point, I forgot to check, but we have many. But that's the kind of project. It's interesting to say that we have had to launch a project with a certain amount of screens and collect screens. So we have this whole participative strategy first with the project not on review and collect and gather.
I saw there was a director screaming on the screen. I saw him.
Yeah, exactly. We have to collect the screens and then we open it to the public. But we have over 200 screens so far, and it keeps. Obviously, when you release a project, there's a peak because of all the media and the marketing and communication around the project. So most of the time, it's hard to keep a project very popular in the, yeah, you know what I mean. So active, exact. So we had a peak, but still at some point we still get some contribution.
I must confess that I have a special empathy for your project. Since the psychologist answered, I know that there is a special therapy called Urschrei therapy, primal screen therapy, which was practiced in some special therapeutical institutions like psychiatry. And myself, I managed to produce a group of screens in a meeting we organized between Romanian and Hungarians. So they were together and supposed to speak to each other and say, okay, considering the primal love between these two ethnic groups, let's recognize that we hate each other basically. So let's release the hate to make room for communication. So the scream really does this, and they screamed. So I can understand very well what the scream might mean, even if it's not always very explicit and produces questions like how much dollars did you spend for a scream?
The scream is a form of agency. You scream in order to kind of take over the kind of anger or anxiety or anything that you have. I was wondering, one, whether each person who screamed had a way to translate their scream for others, to explain why they screamed, and whether the others who participated in the project have a way to interact with each other's screams. So in a sense of writing things or doing things with a scream and saying, oh, so this is your screaming because of this issue, but I'm screaming about the same thing, but my point of view is so and so. So is there any way of them being...
The way we experimented first, I would describe this project as a piece of art. It's a collaborative piece of art on this feeling of violence or art from feeling. So I would explain just the user flow. When you arrive on the experience, the first thing you see really what you saw is an internal experience. And obviously at some point it's hard to handle and it's pretty much in your face. So after a certain time you have those interface that appear and said, can you get, and there's a dramatic art in these interface that arise at some point between the different segments of the screen, the internal screen. So the first one is can you handle it? Do you want to keep listening? That's the first one. And then the second one is where we suggest the last person you saw screaming, we made the portrait of this person. So we suggest, do you want to see the short film of this person and know why this person is screaming? But there's only 10 small portraits. So you actually know why the person screamed only 10 times. But the filters on the screen brings this level of knowledge of why this person screamed actually. So but there's no communication in between. People are not discussing it at all. That's not what the project was aiming. Sometimes when we produce interactive pieces, there's so many things we can do, and the way we think is like, what's the main intention, and stick to this main intention to have just the essential of the project. Because yes, when you develop a project like that, you could have a blog, and you can add this and this and this and that, and there's so many options. But we really like, what's the main focus of this? What we want, and there's so many. Anyways, there's so already blogs and discussion and stuff about this project. I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go to the next project, final one. It's how we said it. It's not a sneak peek.
It's a
preview.
sneak peek, it's a preview.
Yeah, it's a preview. It's a project we're going to launch on April 14th. It's probably one of the biggest projects we haven't done. It's innovative in different ways. The way the whole financial structure is made, it's special because it's a co-production. Well, first, Do Not Track is a web documentary personalized on the trackers and the tracking online and the web economy. That's the project. So it's a series, it's 7 episodes, interactive, personalized episodes. Every 2 weeks we'll release a new episode. It's a it's made by Brett Gaylor. He did Remix Manifesto for those who have seen this documentary. It's produced mainly by Oficiul, which is a pioneer in web documentaries. It's the first time we worked with them. It was a natural fit to work with them at some point. And then we are a co-producer. There are Arte, which is a co-producer, and the BR, the Bavarian. I won't try to pronounce what BR means in German, but it's the Bavarian public broadcaster. So we are many people around the table discussing this project and involved in the content. Also, what is special about this project is that we also have broadcasting partners, such as Radio Canada, public broadcaster, is not a co-producer, it's just part of the editorial conversation I will discuss about it. I will discuss about later. Also, other kind of the broadcasting partners. Also, in this episode, you have Brett Gaylor. It's his original idea, and he's the main director. For once, we have a main director, but every episode is led by a special author. So we have the first episode, we call this episode the morning ritual. So we set up the subject and get the people engaged in this project. Second episode is about the cookies. What are the cookies? How tracking is possible today? This episode has a special author. His name is Vincent Glad. He's from France. And he's not into interactive at all. He's just this guy involved. You know Vincent Glad? How would you describe him? He's a journalist, basically. But he has an opinion on the subject. So that's why he's pretty... he's the main author of this, the first episode. The second episode is about the social media, obviously, and we have a different author on this one. The third one is on social media. The fourth one is on mobile. The fifth one is on big data and algorithms. And this one is special because we, the National Film Board, are producing it. So there's a different author, obviously, but we are directing with the different theme this episode. So it's going to be quite different, but same but different. And then the other one is about the filter bubble. The filter bubble, it's just that now when with everything and all the tracking we know about someone, we're able to categorize this person and show this person the different publicities and different type of content, specifically because we categorize that person. So the backside of this kind of situation is that at some point you don't hear about other kind of stuff if you don't get, so it creates this kind of filter bubble. So this is the 6th episode. And the 7th episode, the episode 7 is about the future of the tracking. So it's going to be every 2 weeks, it's going to be very interesting. Crazy project, because every episode is some kind of new web-based experience, and there's a big hub website too that have this that hosts those episodes. And between all the episodes, we have an ongoing editorial conversation on the blog, on the different partners. So it's huge. I'm tired today. Not just because of jet lag, but because of this project. But it's gonna be amazing. I think I've never been seen so far. I'm gonna try to show you this project online first. I have a backup in video, but because it's personalized, it uses my l'adresse IP, the IP address, to push content related to here. So I hope it will work, otherwise I have another one, but let's try it. Oh, let's just work.
Over the morning, I give away gigabytes of information about myself, and I give it without being asked. This is my name. This is where I live. This is me on Twitter, and these are my photos. All this I share out of habit. I guess it's also part of the routine. Some even call it an addiction. But there's a lot that I share without knowing it, and so do you. For instance, I know right now that this is the country you live in. I know that it's a shitty
Dynamic
morning.
content.
I know that you're on a Mac. These are things I know just from where you're accessing this website before the day even gets started. So let's start the day. Part of my everyday routine is to see what the world is doing. Tell me where you go to get...
It should be in English. Can you tell me about the popular website here to get where you get your news?
News?
Gândul. Gândul, gândul. Gândul. Media Fox.
Media Fox.
Românii nu se hotărăsc cu ce.
Your news. The blue dot that you're seeing represents the site you are visiting right now. The red dots represent third parties who are notified each time you visit that site. Some of these third parties are called trackers, an ecosystem of data collection agencies that compare where you are on the web right now to where you've been before. And each time you browse, they learn more about you. Let's go back to my day. Now I'm distracting myself from work by looking for something funny. What about you? Where do you go for laughs?
Times New Roman.
Type. Yeah. New. Roman. Not arrow.
Like that? Yeah.
Now that we've browsed between two sites, do you see the connections between the dots? What that means is that your browsing history is being recorded. Not just what you do on a single site, but where you are coming from and where you go next. It isn't the website you're visiting that's collecting this data. There's usually a couple of other parties watching you. For example, you might have an advertising network dropping what are called cookies, small, unique files that live on your computer and record your activities on that page. When you visit another site on the same ad network, the ad network begins to build your profile. They can then sell this information to anyone who might want to speak, sell, or present directly to you. Often when you see an ad on the internet, there's been an instantaneous analysis of who you are, and an ad is chosen by auctioning your profile off to whoever bids highest to reach people similar to you.
In my case, lefty Canadian dads who read nerdy science fiction.
On some sites, I build this profile myself. I buy stuff at Amazon, and I watch shows on Netflix, and they suggest things I might like. You can see that they don't need to use any tracking networks. I give them this information myself. The art of tracking is figuring out who I am without me providing that info. If you're getting great news or funny videos without paying, odds are someone is paying for your attention. At this point, you might be asking, shouldn't I be happy that I'm not seeing ads, search results, and social network feeds targeted at conservative voters in Texas? The web is great, at showing you what I want. But if we each see something personal, how can we be equal? Maybe you wonder if you should be concerned at all that what you do online is tracked. If we have nothing to hide, who cares who is watching?
It's no longer about you. It's about how what you put out there affects everybody else. When you become a part of this system of data, your data is used to judge other people. Your data is used to assert power over other people. Your data is used to connect you to other people. But you become a comparison for all of these other people who are constantly surveilled under the suspicion that they may do something wrong.
Move away from the silly cat videos you're resharing and the perfect life you share online, our greatest moment, our best meal. Here's our kid doing something great. But we don't share the sad parts of our lives. We don't share the disappointments. We don't share the parts where we get caught in a lie, or the parts where we, are gluttonous. I mean, we don't share that. And imagine if you were forced to share that, right? We don't want that.
People are so capricious about their digital selves. Oh, my digital identity, it lives out in the cloud. But your digital self is linked to a real person, and you only have one. So you should protect it.
I think there may be companies that desperately want us to give up as much information as possible because they're so bought into the surveillance economy that they need privacy to be kept.
People making the web every day encourage us to share more, buy more, click more, like more, and then sell information about what we do. Every day, the technology to do this gets better and easier, and the amount of money being made from our data increases. It's an industry making billions of dollars from what they know about us. But what do we know about them? This is the start of a documentary series that will answer this question. If you share data with us, we'll show you what the web knows about you. Let's track the trackers together.
We don't have a limit of people who can subscribe. It's
an audience target, but it could be
yeah,
more. If
yeah, I wish it's more.
You will become, because you are asking personal data from the users joining your project.
Yeah.
So you became kind of big brother.
Yeah, well.
You are mimicking the bad guys. You are trackers. And you're personalizing the information, which is the good content.
You're being tracked, actually. You're it's not something. Yeah, of course.
And you are trying to convince me that it's bad.
It's better for this project. It's no, but at the same time, I mean, the NFB, Arte, everybody's tracking. It's the web economy. If you're not tracking, you don't even have.
Do you have a recommendation? So since you prevent, it's okay. This is informing the users that what's happening with their identities when they travel. But do you give any way out of this situation?
Well, yes and no. I mean, it's not just It's not just a critique, this project, because at some point the personalized web, sometimes there are benefits. Like when you're watching Netflix and we are suggesting you this video instead of the other, we are all happy that it's happening this way. So there's good, and it's just, I would say that the project is about unveiling who are the tracker, what they are doing, what is this, like, I mean, sharing our data. We don't even have to share our data anymore. They know that, like, as I said, like, you start on a website and you go on another one, all your navigation history is better than a fingerprint. It knows more about you than your fingerprint. But yes, we will give, it's not tips, but on the blog and the editorial conversation, yes, we will share with people some tools that you can put on your computer so you can see or protect yourself. But it's not, if it answers your question. But what I wanted to say, just, I'm not sure if it's clear in this episode, but I mean, if you share your data, the episode will be more personalized and more precise about, and give you information about you specifically. But if you don't, in this case, what was personalized is saying, I know where that your computer is a Mac, and I know where you are. So I know, like you saw the image with the people. I guess you guys like to drink beers because there were this on the in the.
It's obvious that being interactive, the information becomes much more penetrant, and it has a real impact. Involving myself to convince you. Okay, still there is this paradox that you are convincing me that I have to be cautious about trackers tracking me. And I'm used to be tracked because I have an age which allowed me to feel how it is to feel tracked by the Securitate. Everybody was playing a person in public and a totally different person in private, kind of public schizophrenia. So which might be a solution here. Let's use false identities when we want to...
Yeah, no, it's totally possible, but it's a total other subject, but one of the, like the main director of Google said, today or in the next years, if you want to change your identity, the best way of changing your identity and disappear from the web, and it's to just change your name, because it's impossible now to erase the trace of yourself on the web and on internet. So if you want to change identity, change your name. You can't erase everything on the web anymore. Everything. It's interesting. So yeah, you can change the name and the information you're sharing, but bottom line is still know who you are, and probably more than what you can expect.
But just to glean the mechanism that is part of the project is also symbolizes this paradox in the subject, which is basically like it's not necessarily just the bad thing to give information. You just have to be aware that you're doing it and that how it operates. Because, for example, I'm in Canada and I search for a pub, and they'll see they won't send me to a pub here. So it's a good thing in a way. And the more specific it becomes, the more more larger questions that it becomes. It makes you really think about larger problems that might arise. So the paradox is also in the project in that sense. You're right.
You're right. Yeah, and that's why we are, I would say, 100 times more transparent on this project than we have ever been. There's on the hub and even on the bottom line of the episode, we have a subsection called Your Datas, and we tell the users what we are collecting about them, what we know about them, what we're gonna do about this. We say that after 3 years we're gonna get rid of the data collected, because we estimated that 3 years was a correct time for the distribution and also the activity of this project. We also made sure that the servers where our host, the website and the data are very secure, and not all that is collected doesn't go to Google, let's say. And so we are transparent. We will be also transparent about the NFB, Arte, and every partner on this project. Like the exercise we did by entering the name of a website, you see the trackers and who is tracking. So we, NFB, will say who are the trackers on our website, why, what they know, and stuff like that. So in this project, we really need, because it's a paradox, as you said, we're talking about trackers, but we do tracking too. So we need to be as much transparent as possible. And this project is about, yes, the tracking, but also the economy. And I think that's depending on the people. Some people are very aware that they are being tracked. I know, and I feel that I'm working in new technologies, and so I feel I'm a person with a certain knowledge of this. But what I'm learning about the web economy in this project is very interesting. They are developing now. They are called data brokers. They collect the data and they resell the data, and it's really interesting. There's this city called Audor in between France and Spain, And they were not going into bankruptcy, but they had to be creative, let's say, on a way to make money. And they said, hey, we have this old population, and we have data about our population. Let's sell the data of our city, of the city of Andorre. And they are like everything they are collecting, and they have different setup to collect more data and algorithms about this, and they are selling their data.
The city hall did that?
Andorre.
The city hall, the town hall did that. The mayor's.
Yes, the mayor, the politicians. They said, let's sell the data of our population to have funds.
Since that's not a very problem of gathering data is here at stake, but the problem that how it's used, this data.
Yeah.
Because you call the project do not track, actually not tracking the problem, but how data is used after it's collected, one of the problems, and the other one, that people are not aware what they are tracked of.
That's why at some point, in Michigan, I think it's Michigan, in the United States, the police just knock at the door and say, hey, you young kid, with our algorithms, because you live there and you do that and we see this and that, we think that you're a potential criminal. The production process is quite interesting, yeah, because there are not necessarily people into interactivity and new technology. So how we started is that Brett and we producers, producer and broadcasters, we defined the main theme, and then every author submitted at first the synopsis of the episode, what were their main intention and point of view on this, and then they developed a script, yeah, some kind of script. And you see, this episode is quite there weren't that much interaction, but I don't know if there are producers in the room, but if I was sitting there and seeing this project for the first time, I would say, oh my God, they have a huge budget in the archives. But the thing is that it seems linear, but it's all dynamic, and we are pumping all the visuals through Giphy.com, I think, which is a dynamic API, and where people just drop animated GIF. And all the visual we see are pumped live, and embedded in the experience in real time. That's something else. But about the script, yeah, they wrote the script.
They wrote the script, and you budgeted on the basis of the script, or how?
No, we had the overall budget, and we said, let's say every episode is about $25,000. So, well, the script is one thing. Most of the author, the script, there were no interactivity, and it was hard to cuss. It's mostly, this is what they want to talk about, and this is the objective, and then we have to, the script was just words, and then we had to bring all the creative team around this project, the graphic designer, programmer, and then think the user flow and the narration and the scenariization of this episode. But every episode will be quite different. At the beginning, we wanted, our objective was to have something very different with the different developer and programmer, developer, graphic on every episode. So it's a different theme, and the New York Times was supposed to be part of it, and it didn't happen this way. So there's only one episode that the NFB is specifically developing, and it will be different. But we still have the same budget, but we work differently in producing it.
So how early do they jump in? I mean, the developer and the...
The developer, they jump in from the beginning. I mean, in this case, this is a bit different from the other project, but they jumped in as soon as we had an intention note and a script from the... I don't know what you have in mind when you say script. I would say more as a synopsis.
Okay. I wonder how it looked.
It was, in this case, depending on the author. Some were more into interactivity, so they were able to suggest interaction and propose stuff. Others, it's literal, you know. So depending on the team, but I would say that as soon as we had the first draft and we say, okay, this episode is going to talk about this, this, and this, the developer jump in right away. And sometimes it changed totally, but still the main intention is there. I mean, when you know what we want the people to experiment, but the interactions and the way it will work, it's from the beginning, always.
Because they know where the technology is and, oh, you can do that now, and you can do that, or you'll be able to do that in a few months, or if I work on it, we can develop that. So basically, the new tools are sort of coming up if they're part of the conversation.
Let's say that, because I'm really close to the development of the episode 5 on the big data and the algorithms, the author, she wanted to talk about correlations, and because to talk about the fact that the correlations are made by human beings and the algorithms, let's say, so that was her main intention. She wanted to talk about correlations and show that sometimes the risk of doing those kind of correlations. So the developer, once they read that was her intention, they're like, let's create a world of different, because it's like a galaxy, there's so many data. Let's create this world of this universe of stars, and you click, and let the people make their own correlation. And when they do a correlation, then you present a video or content or this and that. But, well, she didn't know that it was going to happen like that. And the intention is really to use the interaction as the metaphor of the content, as the metaphor of the intention. So it's always how we try to work. So the intention is still the same, but we use the interactivity and technology to serve that purpose.
I was just wondering, do you have a counterpart for television on this project, like linear use of that content, or is it only web-based?
But at the beginning, we wanted to have a documentary film, but we had a problem with the financing. So there won't be any movies, documentary movies. And the thing is, and it was even a challenge to produce, because I haven't showed you the teaser, because the episode is ready now, so you can, it's cooler to see the first episode. But it was a challenge just to produce the teaser, because all the images that you see are pumped through an API, and Giphy, and we cannot use them outside of the browser. Otherwise, we don't have the right to use those images.
Are they partners to the project,
No.
Giphy?
Giphy, no. Disconnected Me, they are the API we are using to show who is following this website. So they are. We ask their permission, and so that's why at the bottom you see proposed by Disconnected Me during this part of the experience. But it was really a challenge because we didn't have any visual to do the teaser. We only had talking heads, and it was so boring. We're like, wow, this is the worst teaser ever. But that's a challenge in this project. It needs to be online, so we're allowed to use this API and pump dynamically the content with some parameters. So within the API, we use some parameters to say, collect, like when we talk about cookies, when in the database of this API, you just parameters to use cookies and filter the visuals through cookies, the word cookie. There were questions over there.
I'm wondering how the televisions are launching this project after it's ready. Is it just on their website, or how they, because I guess they
so
are...
how televisions are launching. Well, the television's partners that we're working with have a big branch of their work in Nouvelle Écriture or new, like interactive projects, and they would launch
on
it.
their website.
Well, they would promote it on the website, but it's the same.
They did teaser too.
They insert.
Yeah, they did teaser.
Yeah.
Teaser with their own. They created their own promotional material. They developed banner, and they buy publicity space on Facebook, on different.
Also on the screen, I mean, on their television.
On the television, it's basically a teaser, a bumper in or out, and it links and they give the URL to the project.
And sometimes they can embed some projects on their page.
That's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
Great.
I think it's.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure we could go on for.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well,
But
we're here until Sunday, so
Yeah.
if you catch us and see us, and then we'll,
Have some
if we're in a
beer
bar,
with-
pay us a
with
beer
us.
and we'll talk.
Yeah,
Marie-Pier,
thank
thank
you.
you.